Right now, we suspect that it was perhaps a drug robbery, but we're still talking to people to continue our investigation.
Waiting over the hearts of people. It doesn't really make sense to say that mercy isn't mercy. Transgressed. It is God who is offended by our sin and waywardness. It does to say that Jesus suffered death on the cross.
Are there any questions?
You talked about witness.
Programming, there were just, we have hundreds, if not thousands.
$1.5 billion for pining money at the UND for the library. Our job is becoming very difficult because of the 10 members of the final deciders of the conference committee. 8 of them were from the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, and 2 were from the Rochester area.
Money for the UMD library. We all would have liked to have seen. A real disappointment also was that the governor vetoed the minimum wage. As we look at the economy in northeastern Minnesota, we have been
I've just been getting information on the different jobs they have what they have available at this time, and they've been giving suggestions on how to go about finding the best way to find a job.
It was a big adventure for a little girl. 7-year-old Jessica Duproff wanted to become the youngest person to ever fly across country, but her dream ended in Cheyenne, Wyoming on the 2nd day of her flight.
And I knew, I said, this plane is going down. And then at that point, it did stall, and it just literally dropped and went straight down.
The flight was the idea of Jessica's father, Lloyd. It was to be a fun father-daughter trip. Her mother says it was the trip of a lifetime.
She just said, I'm going to fly till I die. And I don't want this to mean to people that you hold your children down, you don't give them freedom and choice, because God, that's what her beauty was, that she got to choose.
Jessica left Half Moon Bay in Northern California Wednesday morning. She was too small to reach the pedals. Her flight instructor, Joe Reeves, was along to take over in the case of an emergency. Today, no one knows who was at the controls when the plane went down in a residential neighborhood just a mile from the airport.
I think that young lady would have been a bright star in our society. But when you dance with the clouds, when you fly, it's a risk every time you take off.
Her final destination was Cape Cod, Massachusetts, but the flight ended on a rainy, windy morning in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Carla Alston for NBC News.
Now, obviously, I mean, I wouldn't want you to get too close because we don't want to see any names.
Right. This will be your stop once you're done?
As far as we understood it, those were, in fact, the computer equipment I know was in there. And the renovations we talked about, because at the time that we had originally written the grant, we really didn't know where we were going to put the clinics.
Atlanta's Olympic spirit, unmistakable even in rehearsal. Coca-Cola, the oldest Olympic sponsor and one of this year's biggest. 43 corporate gold medalists each spent as much as $40 million to become Olympic sponsors in Atlanta.
Xerox and the Olympic Games, a simpler way to do good work.
Promoting that sponsorship will cost many millions more.
What makes a swimmer carry on is her lung capacity. And yours.
The Olympic Games touches people in literally 200 countries around the world, and we're fortunate that we do business in every one of those countries.
To host the Games, Atlanta needs $1.7 billion, none of it tax dollars.
So if sponsors weren't involved, then these games really wouldn't exist.
Not at all.
I don't think so.
In some form, corporate sponsors will pay for 70% of this summer's games. For instance,
Champion and Haynes proudly present the official uniforms of the 1996 Olympic Torch Relay.
The Olympic Torch Relay, handed off from Coke to Champion and Haynes to cars from BMW, powered by gas from Texaco. You get the idea.
There is no other way. So the critics, if they can find a better way, they should find it, but there isn't a better way.
Olympic security, keeping an electronic eye, scanning and zooming for potential trouble throughout the Games here in Atlanta. A company called Sensormatic has nearly 400 cameras to do just that. Sensormatic's a smaller company that spent $20 million, hoping the spotlight of its Olympic sponsorship will help it become a bigger company.
Globally, our name recognition, especially in this area of electronic security, has definitely increased.
Sponsors get to exclude competitors. In its corporate hometown, Coke must get bubbly bottling out Pepsi, right?
I'm not familiar with that phrase you used there.
This summer, going for Olympic gold will have two very different meanings. Mark Strassman, NBC News, Atlanta.
That's what would happen now. How about $1,500? I'm at $1,500.
Big crowds, big dollars.
Now 2,000. Thank you, sir. In the back. And now 21.
Bidding for a custom Olympic T-shirt from Haynes, and for charity. Critics see a symbol of something worse here: the auctioning of Olympic glory.
I'm $4,800. I can get 49.
Harvey Borland sells antiques, and for fun, publishes a weekly newsletter highlighting Atlanta's Olympic follies.
What has the hype been like?
A little bit discouraging, because it seems the appearance is that everybody's trying to make a buck.
Nations Bank is proud.
Mega millions from Olympic sponsors pay most of the bills to put on Atlanta's Games. No sponsors, no games.
Yes, you certainly want companies that are complementary to the things that the Olympics stands for.
But critics see a corporate junking of the Olympic ideals, and they're appalled. What's next, they wonder? The Budweiser Olympics, featuring the Kodak Dream Team?
Take a good look, my dear. It's a historic moment. You can tell your grandchildren how you watched the old South disappear one night.
Old Southern values, decency, and courtesy. Olympic greed has Atlanta landlords evicting tenants.
I don't know where I'm going to go for this 20 days, and I don't know how I'm going to make a living because I work out of my home.
Atlanta's homeless were offered a one-way bus ticket out of town if they promised never to return.
It's not right. You know, we still exist.
The embarrassing idea was dropped. Add in massive construction, traffic, general inconvenience.
Well, it's just getting crazier around here.
Deanie Preston sells T-shirts to the teed off.
Playing on the airline theme there, the hottest tickets in '96, and their airline tickets out of Atlanta.
Thank goodness at these games we have Haynes.
We're not taking advantage of it. We're not trying to control events. We're actually supporting.
That auction T-shirt sold for $8,500. Rhett and Scarlett's Atlanta has changed, but for good. Mark Strassman, NBC News, Atlanta.
it'll go. I know.
Community center. It belongs to every Duluthian, and I hope every Duluthian uses it.
Different way that you can take that'll be easier?
No, not really. This is the fastest way, and the other side roads, you know, aren't much better, so I'm gonna have to live with that.
It will be a nuisance, but we'll live with it. That's progress, isn't it? Okay, buddy.
This is what our tax dollars are going for? So we can have digital parking?
That's the reaction of one motorist as she paid a parking meter she hasn't seen on Superior Street in months. Recently, the city installed new electronic parking meters. These meters replaced old ones that were taken down last November to make room for more parking. City officials say there should be no surprises.
There would be an interim when there wouldn't be any meters there. We had to order the meters. We had to wait for weather to be more conducive to the installation. And during that period of time, we would evaluate the situation without meters as compared to with meters.
Now that the meters are here, there were more parking tickets on cars today. One local business says the meters will help them out.
Once again, of the turnover with the cars, and just that more people are able to find spaces now, whereas they were having a little bit more trouble finding spaces right in front of the store or even across the street.
Motorists have been parking for free on Superior Street for about 6 months now. Some say they're used to it and they don't want to start paying.
I don't like it, but I guess we're kind of stuck. Because if we don't pay, we're going to get tickets, and I do not want to afford, can't afford a ticket.
Well, they're new meters, but you do have to put money in them, so that's irritating.
And they've improved it much in the past year, but I think it'd be a little better if we didn't have to pay for parking.
City officials say they think most motorists will appreciate the meters, which will make access easier to downtown businesses. In Duluth, Tamika Snowden, Channel 6 News.
We need to really shift the focus and start looking to some other sources for money to care for children.
That incident. We think she's been shot several times.
We're looking for her husband, who was at this time a prime suspect, who was armed and considered extremely dangerous.
$7.
Is that it? The sounds and sights of movie theaters today. But what was it like 50, 60, 70 years ago when the Northland first met the movies?
Then you only had popcorn machine. The candy was served out of machines where you'd pull the levers, you know, and the candy would come out. And that was usually handled by a vendor. And we didn't have anything to drink except water.
Where shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
But then I remember when Gone with the Wind came to Cloquet for the first time, one of the big things was that the dairy company would come in with orange soda.
And Gene Grang should know. His family has been in the movie business since 1911. In Cloquet, they opened the Lib and the Cloquet Theater. They then moved on to Duluth.
And business was great in Duluth. Summers were fantastic because the highway was Superior. Is that the name of the street, as I recall? Yeah, Superior, main drag, and business was just great in the summertime.
Great for old theaters like the Lyceum, the Granada, the North Shore, and Superior's Palace Theater. In the 1930s and 40s, you went to the movies in theaters like this one. It cost about 25 cents to go, and back then, it was the most glamorous entertainment you could buy.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Where you were going out to the movies, you were going out.
Ray Jennison has been involved with Twin Ports Theaters for nearly 50 years. Most recently, he was a projectionist at the Palace. He has dedicated his life to researching theater history here.
This right here is, without a doubt, one of the original doors. Kill this switch, you'd kill this switch. You would remove your film from the lower magazine, and this was your rewind right here.
Both Grangs and Jennison say there was a certain magic about going to theater back then.
I would say in those days it was star draw. Betty Davis, Cary Grant, Bob Hope, Bing Crosby, to name a few. They were the star draws.
But something happened to change that magic. It happened here in about 1953. Television.
And it was the novelty of television. People were remaining home just to watch anything and everything.
It would take years before these grand theaters succumbed to the forces of TV.
Now, these are the original seats that were put in here in 1941.
Today, what remains inside the surviving structures is original. Dusty seats, screens, and projectors waiting for an audience to bring them back to life.
It's one of Superior's last historical landmarks, and it needed to be saved. We would like to bring it back so that Superior could use it.
The 79-year-old Palace was Superior's last big-screen motion picture theater before it closed its doors in 1982. Now, amidst of water-damaged seats and dusty projection equipment, is what Mike DeGraff and John Tura believe to be a treasure, with new discoveries every day.
We did find written in the mosaic tile on the floor here the palace, and I guess that's original to the building. And we're going to build our entryway right in front of that, so people will see that when they walk into the front door.
This part here, these seats were not changed in 1953.
Ray Jennison worked at the Palace. He's been in the movie business nearly 50 years. He closed the doors on the Palace that day in April 14 years ago.
I am quite sure it was April 22nd right here. Well, it's a changing of the times, there's no question about it, but it's rather disturbing to see, you know, the way many of these theaters have been neglected.
DeGraff and Tura hope to operate a restaurant in the Palace and use the stage for live performance, similar to what Arno Kahn has done across the bridge at the North Shore. Kahn owns the entire North Shore building and has transformed an old balcony to a working stage. But the 700-seat auditorium, complete with original artwork, seating, curtains, and screen, sits empty.
Well, the preferred use would be to use as a theater, and that's the most culturally significant use in terms of anchoring this end of the downtown. So it could be refurbished.
The city of Duluth has developed a plan around a refurbished North Shore. The old downtown plan aims to preserve the arts and entertainment character of this part of Duluth. Once a developer can be found for the theater, low-cost loans and grants will be available for remodeling. But you wouldn't expect movies to be a part of the North Shore's future. The movie industry hasn't used single-screen theaters like this for years, but there's a new movement to combine the splendor of the past with the efficiency of today.
It has filled a great niche, as it turns out.
That's in theater 1 on the left.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Movie theaters today are the hallmark of efficiency. 8 screens for 8 different movies using nearly the same staff it used to take to run one movie. The old single-screen theaters have been forgotten, like Duluth's North Shore, Strand, and Superior's Palace Theater.
This right here is the candy case that was being used when the theater was closed.
So what future is there for the old movie house, that ornate facade once associated with the glamour of Hollywood? Well, in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, this man has found a way to let today's audience enjoy yesterday's magic.
I came back in, opened up the doors, and we thought, well, why don't we restore it, you know, to the original Art Deco style that it was, because all the neon and mirrors and everything was still here, and had a great time restoring it.
It's lights, camera, action again for the Cameo Theater in the heart of Eau Claire's downtown. The Cameo first opened its doors in the 1940s. It had gone through several renovations, including adding a second screen. Grangs felt the only way this historic landmark could still compete was to be different, by combining old style and new innovation.
But mostly, I think it's the younger people that have never, you know, seen an original type theater where you have a larger auditorium and a wall-to-wall screen, and with Art Deco type, you know, it's totally different than a shopping center theater that way. And so they enjoy coming here.
So he scraped the walls, matched the original paint and chrome, and opened the Cameo again.
We found that there was a piece of plywood across this whole thing here, and we restored it just the way it was, and it came out beautiful.
Just as it looked in the 1940s, but this time as a budget theater.
$1.50 all the time. The thing that makes a budget theater feasible is the fact that you have the vending counter. Because at $1.50 for a ticket, you could no way come out. But they feel that they have money left over to buy vending and popcorn, and I guess they'd rather, you know, have popcorn than a paper ticket for $5, you know.
Grangs thinks the budget theater is an attractive option for communities like Duluth or Superior looking to keep historic old theaters in the movie business.
This really fills a niche, and I think it does it within all cities. The kids at the university usually are on a tighter budget, so $1.50, you know, seems really good to them. A lot of people, you know, remember the theater, and they're really happy to be able to come back to a theater that they remembered the way it was.
Grangs and others like him hope the curtain never comes down on the glamour behind the silver screen.
The weather is finally warming up. Our barren gardens will be quickly transformed over the next couple of weeks. There are many plant sales ready to help green up and brighten the Northland. The plant sales start Friday at the Junior League Plant Sale on Arrowhead Road through Saturday. Then head to Woodland for the Oregon Creek Garden Club Plant Sale. Chester Bowl hosts a Mayflower Festival from 11 to 5. Next Wednesday, the Norton Park Garden Club is waiting to see you. And Friday, the Lester Park Garden Club has a sale. May 30th and 31st, Superior hosts a district-wide plant sale. Buying our plants is only the first step into making a beautiful garden. Now make sure you ask when you buy the plants if they were conditioned and grown outside like this one, or if they were in a greenhouse and sheltered like this plant. Now you have to remember, if they were grown in a greenhouse, you need to condition this plant for 7 to 10 days before planting, or it could damage the plant or even kill it, whereas this conditioned plant grown outdoors is ready to plant right away. To toughen up the plants for the outdoors, place the plants outside in filtered sun and light breeze conditions for 2 hours a day. Keep the plants moist and gradually increase outdoor exposure. After 7 to 10 days, make sure the plants can withstand a full day outside with no noticeable change in plant appearance. Then you'll know you're ready to plant. The best planting day is a cloudy, drizzly one. Planting in the sun should be done in the evening.
Well, Congressman Vento wants to expand wilderness, both in Voyageurs National Park and the Boundary Waters Canoe Area. We think there's enough wilderness. We think that the boundaries are fine. We don't want to change the boundaries. I think what needs to be done is to live by the commitments that were made in 1978.
The Isaac Walton League is one of the nation's oldest environmental groups. They have been involved with wilderness issues in the Northland for 75 years. The organization, however, does not support bills proposed by Congressman Jim Oberstar, Bruce Vento, or Senator Rod Grams.
No matter which side's bills were to pass, that they would only exacerbate the problem, that they're going to make things worse, not better.
Member Mike Furtman thinks both sides are too extreme and both proposals are unrealistic.
If the Oberstar-Grams bill were to pass, which would, swing control to the locals and open up the wilderness to more motor use, the environmental groups are not going to stand by and let that happen. So there's going to be continued animosity and continued lawsuits and continued, court battles and bad feelings.
The most recent polls show the public agrees with the Isaac Walton League. A WCCO TV poll last fall showed 70% of the state opposed changing wilderness regulations to allow more motors. The figure was 68% in northern Minnesota. A poll conducted by the St. Cloud State University found 80% wanted to keep current regulations as they are. Furtman says leaving politicians out of the debate may be the best policy.
I think it's unfortunate that politicians are making hay out of the emotions of people in northeastern Minnesota.
Kim Steininger, Channel 6 News.
I think you're right. I think that's a good way to put it, too. You'd be okay. Well, it's a good time of year to do this. It's a beautiful area, too.
Well, I do know.
AMA President's Award of Excellence to the Duluth, where domestic violence is not tolerated. Ladies, here we are.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome.
Agencies that have come together and made an effort in this community that no matter how hard it gets sometimes in shaping each other's policies and procedures, that we've made a commitment to stick together, and it has produced a huge result for people who call 911.
Obvious to us that that alone is not enough, because without follow-up intervention, studies have also shown that easily 75% of all battered women who've been identified in a medical setting will then go on to suffer still further abuse.
Despite the earmuffs and the warm clothing, the charcoal in this Park Point grill was heated to perfection, and the hot dogs and steak cooked to a tasty sizzle last night. This family took advantage of a slow evening on the Point to get a head start on the grilling season. Other Northland families were busy filling grocery carts at their favorite supermarkets for their weekend barbecues. So it looks like you got about 25 pounds of hamburger there. It's going to be a lot of hamburger this weekend.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Are you the guy that puts the charcoal and gets the charcoal ready?
Well, sometimes I do. I cook also.
The National Cattlemen's Beef Association's annual Grilling Index found that 61% of Americans plan to cook out on the grill this Memorial Day weekend. For 75%, beef is the featured bill of fare, followed closely by chicken. While America's food supply is one of the safest in the world, more than 30 million of us suffer from some type of foodborne illness each year. The most common barbecue mistakes are usually related to improper food handling and cooking. There are a lot of neat things on the market you can buy to make sure you don't burn when it comes to barbecue, but the bottom line is simply use your common sense and you should be safe this holiday weekend. Experts say these are the nation's top barbecue blunders that can lead to food poisoning. Not completely thawing frozen meat, which could lead to undercooked meat. Using the same platter for raw and cooked meats and poultry, allowing for the reintroduction of bacteria. Not washing hands after handling raw meat or poultry. Marinating meats at room temperature, creating a breeding ground for bacteria. Leaving food out at room temperature for more than 2 hours. And adding fresh food to food that's been sitting out. If you're a first-time griller or an old hand, remember the top barbecue blunders and steer clear of them. It could make the difference between a weekend you'll want to remember and one you just as soon forget. Michelle Lee, Channel 6 News.
New, hey, these look good. Stearns, yep, Coast Guard approved, that's good. Do you have a seat cushion?
I don't have a seat cushion.
Okay. If somebody were to fall in, you know, we want to be able to throw something to them.
So you need a square cushion.
Yeah, see this you're not going to throw very far.
I see.
And then once you're in the water, this really is hard to get on, where a seat cushion you can grab onto.
20 people died on Minnesota lakes last year. A majority of the fatalities occurred when the weather was good and the waters were calm. The majority were also either drinking or not wearing their life jackets. Alarming facts like these prompted officials to be tougher with new rules.
No matter what size boat or canoe, they have to have a wearable life jacket for each person on board. And then when the boat gets 16 feet or longer, they have to have a throwable life jacket on board for the boat.
Minnesota DNR officials say 75% of last year's boat fatalities could have been avoided if victims had been wearing their life jackets.
With our really cold water, sometimes you have what's called a gag reflex, where you open your mouth as you're going in because the water's so cold, and then that water gets into your lungs. And if you're not wearing a life jacket, you might not come back up.
DNR officials offer these simple boat safety tips. Wear your life jacket at all times. Do not mix drinking and boating. Keep an eye on the sky while you're out and have another lookout person in your boat to help keep you alert.
The waves and the sun and any alcohol wear on a person, and it tires them down, but you don't realize you're getting tired. And I just make sure that the straps are on there, and that's what makes that legal. And
Larson says the keys to boat safety are to play it safe, wear life jackets, and don't risk taking on Mother Nature. Jeff Pappas, Channel 6 News.
And the bruises come from, us being in his way. He would either slap us out of the way or kick us across the room out of the way because we're in his way.
tradition dating back to 1868, placing flowers on the graves of Union or Confederate soldiers. Today, it's called Memorial Day, a day of reflection, honoring those who made the ultimate sacrifice.
We remember those who were called by their nation to defend liberties and preserve unity. We remember with grief and gratitude the supreme sacrifice which young men and women of our land have made in times of war.
Veterans, their families, and friends paid homage at Oneota Cemetery in Duluth, a ceremony very special and dear to Rosemary Stratioti's heart. She's been organizing Duluth's Memorial Day celebration for 37 years.
It's the remembrance of my husband and all the other veterans, and my dad was a veteran of World War I, and I have brother-in-laws that have served the country, and all of them are dead right now at this past time. So I figure I can do that much for them. It means an awful lot to me.
It's a day that means an awful lot to Larry Linnell of Duluth. Linnell is a veteran of the Korean War, and today marked his very first Memorial Day serving in the Duluth Honor Guard.
I do enjoy giving honor to the men that died. Well, I remember them every day, but I mean, it's a day to make it special with the rest of the town. I do like to do it, yeah, we like to give honor. And the group that we're with is a wonderful bunch of guys. They're from all branches, Marines, Navy, Air Force, so we argue a lot.
Whether old or young, the significance of the 128th Memorial Day holiday is strongly felt here in the Northland. In Duluth, Ann Carroll, Channel 6 News.
That doesn't look very appetizing.
No, most people, they say tofu, they curl up their nose. Ooh.
It's packed with protein, yet the tofu we know looks like rubber and tastes like, well, nothing. That is, unless you're creative, like David Mintz. He invented a tasty version of tofu called tofuti.
So when the soybeans are cooked, you make tofu, and you also make soy milk.
And it's milk that's 100% dairy and cholesterol-free. His multi-million-dollar business now ships from Brooklyn to Brussels, a far cry from his basement where he invented tofuti, a labor of love that took almost 10 years to develop.
So originally when I first started to want to make this product, everyone said that this guy's nuts. He'll never do, it'll never work. But thank God, with God's help, we did it.
The king of tofu works hard at thinking up new ways to use his discovery. These pastries are his latest luscious treats.
Now, the reason we're putting the tofu in there is so you get that cheesy, milky taste without being dairy.
For folks who are lactose intolerant, frozen desserts without the milk and butter fat are very popular. He even stuffs tofuti in tortellini.
I mean, if you didn't know that I put tofu in there, you'd think that is a hard Latin cheese.
See if my Italian grandmother would approve. It's delicious.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rounding out the list, non-dairy imitation sour cream, cream cheese, and even eggs.
This is only made from egg whites. But I make an omelet that's fat-free, and it tastes just like the real egg.
And these chocolate fudge treats are a dream for dieters. They're sugar-free, fat-free, and only 30 calories. And even though it's healthy eating, watch the calories in the other goodies, and they are good. How do you do that?
Wow, I mean, this is why they call me the Minster Prince of Tofu.
For NBC News, I'm Diana Penna.
Come on, Prince, just so.
This afternoon, 5 candidates were given 15 minutes each to impress the Republican Party.
If you give me your endorsement, I will be on his step Monday morning, pounding on that door and saying, where's the debate? And I'll take the meeting with me because God knows they want to talk to me because I've been talking with them.
Some candidates marched in dozens of American flags, complete with supporters dressed in patriotic costumes. Some gave personal messages through videotape, while others dropped balloons. It was all in a last-minute effort to try and win the support of the Republican Party in hopes of running up against Paul Wellstone in the race for the United States Senate.
We need a fresh face and a new voice, someone that's looking with optimism and opportunity and enthusiasm to take us into the 21st century. That's me.
You can't trust the politicians. They're gonna, if we let them off, they're gonna do it again. They like that power. You let them off, they'll keep coming back for more.
Well, it's kind of fun, but we got to make a lot of decisions, like to report them or not to. And like, you know, it's just hard and stuff.
Well, I think it's a very good honor for him because he did so much work here, and he helped set up this picnic area, and in fact he helped set up the whole CC camp.
He just treated us so good, like his own child, you know, and he was so patient. We knew nothing about shovels or picks or cant hooks or anything like that. And along with thousands of other young men, I went through Fort Snelling, came up by train, met by Buzz Ryan here at 6 a.m. in the morning after an all-night ride, came out here in trucks. I come up here, I saw my first moose, my first bear, ducks. It was a new world for me. I never got out of Minneapolis. And we called in what they call LEMs, local experience men who were unemployed, joined as special experienced men who could tell us how to use a shovel and an axe, and they showed us how to cut down trees. And we just gained weight. We come in at 90 or 100 pounds, and hell, we leave at 150 pounds of muscle. Jake, will you help me? I'd like to go around, and you know better than anyone else what's here. What's to the left here, Chuck?
Well, right on the left here, this here was what they had the school building. That's where they had the classes, and they taught the
little one-room.
Yeah, they taught them how to type, shorthand, bookkeeping.
We had big dances. We go to towns up here and round up the women and chaperones and bring them in for Friday or Saturday night dances. And a lot of marriages emerged from those relationships. I always kept in touch with this camp here, and this was a yearly pilgrimage for me. I've made it a personal commitment to that this camp be preserved.
And by trying to bring people together in mediation so that we have a positive change that we can live with as a state, that doesn't end up getting changed every 2 or 4 years, depending on who's in control of the Congress, is the right thing for me to do.
To the best of our knowledge, the steam whistle came from the Marshall Wells building, which is now the Meyerhoff building. They were the largest wholesale distributor in the world back in the 30s and 40s. And this is the whistle that was on the top of the building. And they used it to start the day, announce the noon hour for the workers, the return time at 1 o'clock, and then quitting time at 5 o'clock.
We're going to catch them. It's just may take some time, but we will catch them.
A renewal agent in the forest in a lot of ways, and also to kind of maybe hold the rein on some of these larger fires that may still be coming to some. That's right. In fact, fire in the forest dictates sometimes these fires should bring about water, wind, and pressure. I'm assuming that, this is fire being a renewal debris that accumulates over time, and also to maybe hold the rein on some of these larger fires that may still be coming this summer. Is that fair to say?
That's right. In fact, fire is one of the three cleansing agents of the earth that I think about: water, wind, and fire, and the removal of the debris that accumulates over time, the limbs and the needles and this sort of thing, and sort of the cleansing effect of fire is.
The purpose of this center is to help people develop a deeper appreciation for the area, to help thousands of people, many of them from outside of the area, understand what it is that makes this area so special.
Things to the task, because really what happened over the last few years is that every time a particular, and of course in 1995, a big part awarded to Frank Thompson.
It's just going to be a matter of time until the rain actually stops and the sewer lines can drain the problem away by itself.
Hibbing City Engineer John Soikinen received plenty of calls this morning from residents who awoke to flooded basements and backed up storm sewers. His work depends largely on the work of Mother Nature.
For most part, it's kind of a wait and see attitude. The rain has to stop and the sewers have to do their work and drain down to normal capacity before the problem will go away.
Basements weren't the only things flooded this morning. Highway 169 in Hibbing was closed overnight as rainwater gushed across the road. We found one road outside Hibbing that made some motorists change their plans.
I would think that at a point where you get past 6 to 8 inches of water running over a road, we would look at closing it for safety purposes.
And it's safety that Soikinen says motorists should keep in mind while traveling during heavy rains. In Hibbing, Liza Olson, Channel 6 News.
Football helmet is due to lawsuit tax. $8 of a child's $11 DPT shot about the Minnesota man was asked by his city to... Part of educating the public will be to expose frivolous lawsuits to kind of discourage people from filing similar frivolous lawsuits in the future.
To have their cases heard. And you pay for this wasted court time with your tax dollars. Call Minnesota Lawsuit Abuse Watch at 1-800-355-MLAW and get this free action kit. Find out how you...
Earl Green didn't think he had any risk factors for heart disease. Then he had a heart attack. At first, it felt like indigestion that wouldn't go away.
I started feeling tingling in my left fingertips, and I said, uh-oh.
His wife called 911, and he was taken to Bayfront Medical Center. There, Earl was given the clot-busting drug TPA, which dissolved the blockage that caused the heart attack. But Earl was still at risk for a second attack. That's when he decided to enroll in a drug study to reduce his risk. During a heart attack, the blood vessel walls become rough. Sticky platelets, shown in blue, get caught passing through and can form another blockage. In many cases, that leads to another heart attack. The drug being tested, Zemilofibam, is new and smooths out the vessels so another clot can't form.
That gives that artery time to heal. So it's a matter of hours that the artery needs to repair itself. And during that critical time period, this medicine is protecting you.
Earl doesn't know whether he got Zemilofibam because some patients get a placebo, but he didn't have another heart attack either. And he's made some heart-healthy changes, most notably in his diet.
The joke is the diet that I'm on is if it tastes good, spit it out.
Irene Mayer for NBC News.
I didn't do it to publish it. I've had these stories around for a long time. And I've written stories for a long time, and I've done articles for papers and magazines and so forth, but writing is my hobby. If I could make a living at it, it would have been my vocation.
If it went private, since they have to make a profit or else they wouldn't be going after the business, your stamps could theoretically go up from 32 cents a stamp to $1 or more a stamp. So that the companies can make profits. And they'd also, if you live out in a rural area, not in a city like Duluth, it shouldn't be affected, but if a rural area, instead of being mail delivered 6 days a week, you might get it 2 days a week.
Questions? John, you said you want to be a freeway in Duluth supporters, and the reason I am here is because I miss Duluth. I miss the people of Duluth. I miss working for the people of Duluth. The opportunity to come back officially in a capacity of public service is something that I've looked forward to. The aspect of doing it now is through a different form of government that I may have been involved with.
Congressman Jim Oberstar made a stop in Two Harbors. Soon Oberstar will be heading back to Washington for the House hearings on his BWCA bill.
I think their bill is going to move. We are going to have action in subcommittee, full committee, and on the House floor, and then we'll find a way to get this bill to conference.
Oberstar says his bill maintains the 1978 Act, which would raise motor usage to 31% of the lakes. A counter bill by Bruce Vento proposes expanding wilderness about 17% of the lakes in the BWCA and Voyageurs National Park. The Senate held hearings on this issue a few days ago. Oberstar says he was not pleased with how things went.
I was very disappointed to see two retiring senators lecture our witnesses from Minnesota who traveled 1,500 miles out to present their case to the Congress and tell them that really their views didn't count.
Senator Paul Wellstone isn't taking sides in this issue. He's pushing federal mediation. Oberstar says mediation was used in 1978, but it didn't work.
So there's a great deal of skepticism about the outcome of mediation, since those who participated in mediation in the past didn't keep good faith.
In Two Harbors, Tamika Snowden, Channel 6 News.
Oh, you're driving too, huh?
I'm in charge of the mountain waters as chairman of this subcommittee. You know, I mean, that's not what he said, but that's what he thought. I was very disappointed with those retiring Democratic senators who told people who had traveled 1,500 miles out to Washington to present their case to their government that they didn't matter, that what they were about to say was not going to be considered, that this bill, in the words of two of them, was not going to reach the Senate floor.
Right, $2 billion. giving money to special pet projects and hockey, football, sciences, cutting certain programs so that others can benefit, and all in the name of making the university more marketable.
Will resist change, and you're likely to get a lot of phone calls. I would encourage you to ask callers. We must both raise standards and hold everybody more responsible. Life cannot continue forever in this protected monopoly called public education without better results and accountability.
And the bus stopped and we were looking around where the students had their homestays. But what a tragedy for them. I remember landing on the runway coming back to Duluth and just feeling so thankful that we had a safe journey. Before I knew that there was a student group on board, I just, that's all that I thought about. It could have been us, how lucky we are, Very much so. When you've done a similar type of experience,
Cheer 'em on, folks, this ain't no symphony concert. Tom is hey, there's a nice three-point throw for Tom.
It's kind of a small town atmosphere here. I like being part of it.
I think this is the largest I've seen in about 5 years. Every year it seems to grow.
Well, you're always concerned about the weather when you're doing an outdoor show. So, no, today is perfect. Not too hot, not too cold.
Put that into account. And so that's how they should be evaluated.
We're looking at students spending more time in school. In Duluth, Minnesota, they spend 170 days in the classroom. We think they ought to be spending something closer to 200 days in the classroom.
So liberal, he opposed mandatory sentences for criminals who sell drugs to our children. Wellstone even voted twice to let violent criminals out of jail before they serve 85% of their sentences. Crime victims carry their scars for life. But ultra-liberal Paul Wellstone voted to let violent criminals out of jail before they serve their full sentence. Call, tell Paul Wellstone to stop siding with the liberals and to keep violent criminals in jail where they belong.
Oh, sure.
Rolling?
Oh, no. Go ahead.
I'm not ready. We'll do a little Bojangles by the camera.
Next stage for 98 completion, which also includes some minor work up in Minnesota, is estimated to cost about $300 million.
Which also includes some minor work up in Minnesota, is estimated to cost about $300 million. So it's a significant investment.
According to police reports that Channel 6 was able to obtain, on May 2nd, Judge Patrick McNulty was shopping at the Plaza Jubilee store in Duluth. The clerk in those police reports told the authorities that she saw the judge slip 2 packs of cigarettes into his pocket. He then did some more shopping, stopping at one point to ask the clerk where to find the lighter fluid. The report says he paid for the rest of his groceries but left the store without paying for the cigarettes. Security confronted Judge McNulty outside the store. McNulty reportedly told the store security officer that he forgot to pay for the cigarettes. But police were called in because Judge McNulty had been under surveillance by store security during this visit because of an earlier incident. The police report indicates a clerk alerted store security to McNulty, telling According to police reports that Channel 6 was able to obtain, on May 2nd, Judge Patrick McNulty was shopping at the Plaza Jubilee store in Duluth. The clerk in those police reports told the authorities that she saw the judge slip 2 packs of cigarettes into his pocket. He then did some more shopping, stopping at one point to ask the clerk where to find the lighter fluid. The report says he paid for the rest of his groceries but left the store without paying for the cigarettes. Security confronted Judge McNulty outside the store. McNulty reportedly told the store security officer that he forgot to pay for the cigarettes. But police were called in because Judge McNulty had been under surveillance by store security during this visit because of an earlier incident. The police report indicates a clerk alerted store security to McNulty, telling them to watch him whenever he came into the store. The clerk said she had seen McNulty hide cigarettes in his pocket and leave the store without paying for them a day or two earlier. The police statement taken from that clerk says, in a fluid motion, she saw him conceal the cigarettes in his left coat pocket. He then continued through the checkout lane and paid for some items, but didn't pay for the concealed cigarettes. She told police she didn't confront McNulty because she was shocked by the unlikely correlation between the man's demeanor and appearance and the theft of cigarettes.
Now in its 11th day, the standoff continues by Native Americans who are protesting railroad shipments of sulfuric acid over their land. The Wisconsin Central Railroad and protesters say they hope this will all be over soon. A federal mediator from the U.S. Justice Department has been called in to help end the dispute. Meanwhile, demonstrators say they'll stick to their guns. The federal mediator did not arrive last night as expected, but according to Ashland County sheriffs, he is now here and is meeting with the sheriff and the tribal chairman. Authorities also say it could take up to a couple weeks for an agreement to be reached. The mediator is on the scene at the request of the Wisconsin Central Railroad, which has a contract to deliver hundreds of tanks of sulfuric acid to a Michigan copper mine. The railroad already has shifted some loads of non-hazardous cargoes to trucks so they can be taken around the protesters. But until a resolution is reached, protesters say they will continue to block the railroad tracks.
What we're doing here is because we care about the land. We care about what the Creator has given us.
But comment from law enforcement was slim. We repeatedly tried to get comment from the Ashland County Sheriff's Department, but were refused. Now it's up to the mediator to resolve the situation. Near Ashland, Molly Boyum, Channel 6 News.
and when we saw the good sand at the S-curve, we were thinking, great, you know, our property taxes can only go up. But now that they're in the harbor and they're getting some areas that are traditionally not very clean, I think we're more concerned.
He said, to the best of my recollection, was get the hell out of here. And during the course of this, my first words and only words to him were, don't shoot.
I feel pretty lucky. Like I said, the trees were just, you could hear them snapping like twigs. And I was just afraid one was going to hit the house or something. I was very surprised that none did.
Bridge, let's just end it. Let's end it on a stand-up. Let's end it on a stand-up. Yeah.
The Duluth Skywalk provides a way for residents to get around town when the weather's bad, but it also is a cause of concern for authorities. Recently, an alleged bank robber has used the Skywalk as an escape route, and there have been incidents of pickpocketing and other crime. That's why the Greater Downtown Council wants volunteers to help stop the problem.
At the same time, have some people that are the eyes and the ears of the police department and private security folks that can walk through the skywalks, and if they see something happening that may be a threat to somebody or a public safety issue, they'll have cellular phones and they'll be able to get a hold of the police department right away.
But even if they don't have cellular phones, there are red phones like these that will give you a direct line to the police station. The council does plan to train citizen patrol volunteers.
So that they can, if they're the first on the scene of medical emergency, they can summon help right away. Those types of things. We'll make sure people are well trained and then send them out as ambassadors all throughout the downtown.
With the skywalks being used more, safety is a concern among both the police and the skywalk users. Duluth police say in order to eliminate this concern, everyone must do their part.
We think we can make a real big difference in the future and in any crime problems or safety problems or just quality of you know, the skywalk and of life issues down there that sometimes when people in their hustle and bustle, nobody takes any ownership.
One downtown merchant says she will take ownership and will encourage her employees to do so.
In any way that I can. We're definitely a small business, so I'm not going to be able to have my employees out there constantly, but I would love to do my fair share.
The council hopes that more downtown businesses will also do their fair share. Police feel if there are enough volunteers, this program will be a success. After all, there is safety in numbers. In Duluth, Molly Boyum, Channel 6 News.
Both of these areas, Voyageurs National Park and the Boundary Waters Wilderness Canoe Area, are national treasures that, and it's very important that they be preserved for our families and for future generations.
One thing that I would like to see is the original intent of the legislation that created Voyageurs National Park explored. I think that that is where a great deal of the misinformation stems from, and I would like to get back to the original legislative intent.
And gosh, not everybody agrees on everything. It's pretty surprising. And we don't think that they will necessarily, but they're listening to each other with respect, and that's really what will make this process work.